All right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. So I hope you guys are all doing well. So before we start the program, I'm going to introduce Brother Nasser. He is the lead of the youth committee, and he works with the youth council to have all the youth programs. So Brother Nasser, if you can come up here.
Okay, Jazakallah. Okay, Jazakallah Qasim. So quickly, I won't take too much of time. I just want to introduce. We have a newly formed youth committee and already youth council, which comprises of our youth like Qasim, Zain, Hannah, Hatim. There are many very active and energetic youth. And then we have also formed an adult youth committee to help and work closely with youth to develop more programs. So I just want to quickly introduce folks in the youth committee. So we have Mubin Ahmed, if you like to stand up. Actually, if you like to come here, so sisters can also see you. And then we have Zaid Ali, and then we have Amir Rahim here. And do we have any sister here from youth? Sister Zainab, you want to come? And Sister Farha and Shajila, Sister Shajila. And do we have, and then we have a kids committee as well, which is headed by Sister Samia. So is there anybody from kids committee right now here in the room? They would like to come here? Okay, so I don't think anybody, because the spring break just started today. So do you want to say a few things quickly? Mubin is the chairperson of the youth committee.
I'll not take a lot of time. I know we are delayed. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's a privilege to be part of this committee and be of service to the masjid. Inshallah, we are planning a lot of exciting programs intended towards not just religious activities, but professional development as well, career programs. So we're looking for ideas and volunteers and help from the youth and youth council. Jazakumullah khair.
And youth committee won't take credit of this program. This program is completely organized by actually youth, the young youth council. So they did a great job of organizing this program. All right. So I will hand it over to Sheikh Omar Farooq.
Omar
if there is
Usman.
no other.
All right, so I'm going to call up Hiv student Talha for a Quran recitation first, and then after that we're going to get to the program.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير صدق الله العظيم.
All right, Jazakallah. Talha for the amazing Quran recitation, and I ask Allah to make it easy for you to complete your hifz program. All right, so now we're going to get started, but first I'm going to introduce Brother Omar Usman. So Omar Usman, he works professionally as a technology consultant and is a certified project manager and leadership trainer. He is one of the founding members of Qalam Institute, which we have all heard of. It's based locally over here. And he's served in several different leadership capacities within numerous local and national Islamic organizations. He's also a khatib in his local community and teaches regularly around the country on the topics of leadership, social media, and conducts public speaking training. And he's also the author of the book, Fiqh of Social Media, which is available outside. If you guys want to purchase it after the talk, it's $15. And that's also what the presentation today is about. So before we start, can everyone see the presentation clearly? Yes? All right. With that, I give her over to Brother Omar Usman.
All right. Do I just do this one? Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Jazakallah khair everyone for coming out. So we're going to get into it. My one request is that you turn off your phones. This is going to go pretty fast. You're going to have a hard time keeping up if you're distracted. All right, so first things first. If you're born before 1985, raise your hand. Everyone take a look around. We are going extinct. This is the last generation of mankind to meaningfully experience adult life prior to the invention of smartphones. So we lived life a little bit differently than those of you born after 1985. As an example, if we were out driving around and we were lost, there was no such thing as a GPS. You had to pull into a gas station, ask for directions, and do whatever the dude told you to do and hope that you found your way to your destination. On the way home from school trips, we did not have cell phones to call our parents. We would stop at a gas station, call collect, and when they said, "Who is this call from?" we would say, "I'm at the school, come pick me up right now," and then your parents would decline the charges and they would come pick you up. Only a few people understand that joke. But now we live in the age of digital natives, people who have grown up with technology all around them. The way that they interpret the world is completely different than those who saw the advent of this in adulthood. And so things have changed significantly. Common wisdoms that, like don't talk to strangers, are now treated quite a bit different than they were just a few years ago. Growing up, if I wanted to play video games with a friend, there was a process. I want to play Mario Kart with Brandon. Okay. Do you have a copy of Brandon's report card? What do his parents do for a living? How many siblings does he have? What kind of house do they live in? What type of family? It was a lengthier process than some marriage interviews, and then only after that approval could we go and play video games with each other. There was no online gaming, no headsets. It was whatever was on the cartridge that you had, and that was it. If we wanted to watch a movie, we went to the video store. Our parents would read the description, look at the rating, and then approve the one movie that we were allowed to watch that weekend, and that was it. But now, kids have life a little bit different. The way that they process, the way that they consume content, the way that they play, all of these things have changed, and it can kind of scare people as to what is happening to people. How are they going to function in society when we have not seen people act this way ever before? Right? And so it becomes confusing. It can cause some conflict. We don't know how to talk about it sometimes. And frankly, sometimes it's a little bit scary. We worry about where the world is going and what the end result of all of this technological advancement is going to be, because even though some things make our lives easier, some things do frighten us. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. One of the things that stays the same is human nature. Right? The way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, created the weaknesses of the soul that we have, human nature, all of these things are the same regardless of the technology around us. And so the thing that we have to understand is that social media, smartphones, the internet, all of these things are tools. And they neither change human nature, but they kind of amplify some of the things that were there before. And so even though things are a little bit different. One thing that we do have to highlight is the way that phones and social media have impacted the idea of friendships. See, the Prophet ﷺ taught us that the example of good company and bad company is like that of the musk seller and the blacksmith. This is a hadith that many of us are familiar with. That when you are in good company, right, you go into a perfume store and you walk in, it smells nice, so you feel good. You go and you get a sample, you put some on, now you smell good. Maybe they offer you a deal, you buy some, you walk out, but you leave slightly better, your mood slightly elevated than when you walked in, right? Because of the environment that you were in. When you visit a blacksmith, and a lot of us don't know what a blacksmith is because it's not one of the pre-approved doctor, lawyer, engineer majors that we're allowed to go into, so let's talk about going to a car mechanic. When you go to get your oil changed, what happens? You go in, you get out of the car, the place smells, the mechanic's hands are dirty. You go into the waiting room, there's stale coffee, the chairs are dirty, you're sitting there, you stand up, you're uncomfortable. By the time you leave, you want to go home and take a shower because of how dirty you feel, right? And so we understand the concept of the influence of the company that you keep. But a lot of times we don't make the analogy of how that applies to our lives online. And one thing that I want to highlight tonight is that the Prophet ﷺ taught us many things, many of which admittedly are very basic, right? The hadith and things that I'm going to share are not really beyond an elementary Sunday school level. These are things that our children understand. The challenge is how we actually connect the dots and implement that in our interactions online. And so when we think about the hadith of the musk seller and the blacksmith, we understand what that means in the sense of who we go to grab coffee with, who we play ball with, who we invite over to our home. But we don't think about it in terms of who we follow online, the brands we follow online, the celebrities we follow online, right? Where the relationship is not two-way, it's not me and a buddy getting coffee, but the relationship is one way. I am following this basketball player, he doesn't know that I exist. I'm following a brand that is not even a person that has no idea that I exist. And yet, I'm consuming the content that they produce multiple times every day. And so that becomes company that I am keeping. The Prophet ﷺ said that a person is on the religion of his friend, meaning that whoever you associate with, whether you want to admit it or not, there is going to be an alignment of worldview, of values, of ethics, of character. Someone that you are close with is going to have an overlap of those things with you. And so when the quote-unquote person that you spend the most time with isn't someone that you meet regularly at school or at work or at the masjid, but someone online, that same rule applies, right? What is the alignment of your values and ethics and character with that person? Now, the dynamics of friendship change, right? The meetings and interactions that happen in person, they move online, they start to shift. The way that we interact is significantly different, right? We're not going out and getting coffee, but we're having micro interactions. I post something, 2 hours later someone likes it, 3 hours later someone leaves a comment, 5 hours later I go and like something that they post, then we exchange a text message, right? And so there's this asynchronous communication happening throughout the day. And so just the nature of that friendship changes, and in order for that friendship to cultivate, things look a little bit differently, right? Now, traditionally, if you meet someone at school, you meet someone at the masjid, over time, you get to know them and a relationship develops. Now you meet someone here on Friday night, you exchange numbers, you go home, you look them up. Now what happens? You add them on Facebook, on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Facebook, you look them up, and now within 2 minutes, you know what this person has looked like, every year for the last 10 years from their profile pictures. You look at everything that they've shared. Now you're making categorizations as to this person's political opinions, social opinions, religious viewpoints, which scholars they follow, what sports teams they follow, what restaurants they've eaten at, what their favorite dessert is, what the inside of their home looks like, who their siblings are, what their parents look like, where they've been on vacation. You get a download of this person's entire life in 2 minutes. Normally that would have taken months to figure out, right? So the dynamic is significantly different when that relationship is cultivated online. And so true friendship is harder to come by. And there's multiple implications of that. One implication of that is that the value of friendship gets cheapened. Because, if you're one of those prior to 1985 people growing up, if you had a fight with a friend, what often ended up happening is that your parents intervened and made you make up. that you have to somehow figure out how to work things out, how to get back on the same page, how to repair that relationship and make it stronger. But if I have 500 friends on Facebook and 1,000 followers on Instagram and someone says something to me that I don't like, I have no investment to fix that relationship. I just mute them and block them, and I have 999 other friends that I can talk to. It doesn't take a lot to make the analogy as to how this impacts relationships and things of that sort, right? Where the cheapening of the relationships because we have so much choice, and so we're not invested in creating true friendships like we were before. But the other change that it's made is that now that we have all of these friendships, and for the first time in history, we have friendships without relationships, meaning we're connected to people that we might not necessarily know in real life. That now to maintain that friendship doesn't mean that I invite you over for lunch and then you invite me over for dinner, then we go play ball together. To maintain the friendship now is that you have to be connected to your phone. Because that is where the friendly interaction is taking place. That we're messaging each other back and forth, we're commenting on each other's statuses back and forth. So now in order to maintain friendship, in order to stay connected, I have to be on my phone. We're not getting dropped off at the mall to hang out or at the movie theater to hang out. Our hanging out is happening on the phone. Or it's happening on the headset while we're playing video games with each other. And so the dynamic of communication, again, changes. And so naturally, as a consequence, now we become connected to our phone, right? It's there now all the time. Because now we want to be in touch with the people that we like. We want to, be involved in the conversation. We want to be involved in what's happening, and so now we're constantly checking our phones. And one thing we learned from the Prophet ﷺ is that when he addressed someone, he completely turned his face toward them. Now this is something very interesting. A seemingly innocuous hadith that observes the behavior of the Prophet ﷺ, but we learn an important piece of etiquette. That when someone is speaking to you, that you're giving them your full attention, not half your attention, right? Now imagine how that plays out speaking to someone after prayer, speaking to someone at work, speaking to your own children, speaking to your parents, right? Think of all those interactions where someone is talking to you and you're also looking at something else. And we find a very basic teaching from the Prophet ﷺ teaching us an etiquette that applies even to this age of the smartphone. See, one thing that we believe as Muslims is that the Quran and the Sunnah is timeless guidance, right? It is a perfect guidance. That this is the guidance that mankind needs until the end of time. Well, what that means then is that we should be proactively teaching people how to manage these technologies. We should not be the ones reacting to the technology, but we should say that we have a timeless guidance. We've just got to do the work to figure out how it applies. Now this phone, it starts to affect, right, all types of interactions. The way that we meet, the way that we go out to dinner, the way that we interact in the masjid. If you guys know Imam Abdurrahman Bashir at Allen Masjid, this is his masjid when he was in New Orleans. And he told me, he said, Omar, I put this sign up and it never hit double digits. He said inevitably every Friday someone's phone would go off. He said one Friday they made it through Jummah without anyone's phone going off, and he's like, I was so happy. He goes, I was going to take a picture of it saying 10. And he goes, you wouldn't believe it, Saturday morning at Fajr someone's phone went off. Right? And so the way that our masjid experience is impacted. No comment needed. We all understand this one. It impacts the way that we go out to eat, right? We've all got that one friend who won't let us eat until they can take a picture of the food before we start eating. Changes our priorities, right? And although this picture is funny, but there are serious situations where now there are incidents, right? For example, in a school where two kids may get into a fight, and rather than other kids intervening to break it up, everyone's taking out their phone to be the first one to video it and upload it, right? And so the way that we respond to high stress or emergency situations is drastically different because our inclination now is not to help. Our inclination is to document and to capture. It impacts the way that we work. How many people have worked or do work in a corporate environment? Right? If you ever worked in a corporate environment, this is what your day looks like. You go to work. You sit down, you turn on your computer. Or, now working remote, you maybe go downstairs and turn on your computer. You check your email. Then you check all these things. All of them. Then you go make coffee, you eat breakfast. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15 if you're just really chilling out that day. Then you go back and Allah only knows what happened in the last 15 minutes. I got to check all these things again, all of them. Then I'll go check my Outlook, respond to a few emails, sit in on a Zoom call. On the Zoom call, I'm checking all these things because, man, while they're talking, something might be happening in the world. And the day continues like that, and when the day is done, say, what happened? I was really busy. What'd you do? I have no idea, but I was really busy. I'm really tired. I need to veg out. I need to relax. Okay. How am I going to relax? I'm going to lie down on the couch. I'm going to turn on the TV and put the game on, and then I'm going to respond to WhatsApp messages for the rest of the evening. Right? That becomes then the relaxation. And so this form of being busy and this form of being tied to the phone has spiritual impacts as well. Right? It affects the way that we go to bed. It affects the way that we wake up. And one of the interesting things that you think about how we go to sleep, the du'as for going to sleep are very simple. A 5-year-old can memorize it in a few minutes. Right? The afkar for going to bed are not complex. They are not difficult. We all know them. But a lot of times we can't do them because here's what happens. We lie down in bed. It's been a long day. You need to relax. So we get on the phone. Start watching Netflix. Start watching YouTube. Until we reach the bliss point. The bliss point is when you're just tired enough that the phone falls down on your chest. And you know that you have just enough energy to plug it into the charger and fall asleep without being alone with your own thoughts. And then you wake up, you turn off the alarm that is on your phone, and you check all those things again. Who liked my photo last night? Who responded to my comment? Who liked the photo? What emails did I get? What messages did I get? What was the latest in that debate happening on that WhatsApp group? Right? We do all of this and it's like, oh yeah, I got to pray Fajr, got to get up, can't be late for work. And then that's how the day goes. And so one of the things about social media, about smartphones, is that without a level of intentionality, the default, because of how these devices are engineered, is that it will occupy your time. And so a consequence, the trade-off of that, right? See, everything has a trade-off. I want to make that clear. When the printing press was invented, people were afraid of the trade-off that now we're going to rely on the written word. And we're going to have weak memories. When I was a kid, the fear was these kids are going to sit on the sofa and watch TV all day and become couch potatoes. And now that us couch potatoes have grown up, we're worried about our kids and the phone making them dumb and how it's going to impact their life, right? Everything has some type of a trade-off. One of the trade-offs of this occupying all of our free time is that it cuts into what's called white space, right? The downtime that you have throughout the day. Time that, very simply, we're commanded so often in the Quran, sit and reflect. Look at the clouds, look at the sun, look at the night sky, look at the stars, look at the trees, look at the rivers. Right? Just look around you. Reflect. Make time for dua. Dua, right? Dua with sincerity means what? It means that you have to have an attentive heart that is not distracted by anything else. For a lot of us, we have mastered the salah where the phone is in the pocket. On that second salam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, we're like ready with the face ID immediately. Right? Like our salah doesn't finish, our mind's already on the phone. And so we think about that idea of reflection, the idea of dua and having an attentive heart, and that's where the trade-off comes in. That how much downtime do you truly afford yourself in an age of social media? Now, the other thing that social media does, the other thing that smartphones do is that they're a magnifying lens, right? So human nature doesn't change, but social media will magnify the emotions and the characteristics that were there. So there's this idea, we understand this concept of currency, right? That you will be distracted by worldly life. You'll be distracted by the accumulation of wealth and this competition until you visit the graves. And we understand that in the sense of worldly wealth. Because in this world, currency, the way that we gauge success is by money. The more money you have, the more successful you are. The way that we create equity and justice is through money. If you wronged me, I take you to court and I sue you. And the way that we have justice is that you pay money to me, and now we have equity in this wrong that was done to me. In the akhirah, there is the currency of deeds, right? So if I've violated someone's rights, I did backbiting, I slandered someone, and they haven't forgiven me, then in the hereafter, that currency is deeds, right? Your good deeds and your bad deeds. In the online world, currency is attention, How many eyeballs did I get? What was my watch time? What's my subscriber count? How many likes? What's the engagement? How many comments? And so when we want to be successful in this world, we say, look at successful people and imitate it. Right? So get the degrees that pay the most, work for the companies that pay the most, and you'll also be successful. If you want to gain success in the hereafter, well then model yourself after people who appear to be on that path. Right? Attach yourself to the Quran, pray in the masjid, fast in Ramadan, give extra charity, right? Mimic the deeds of the people of paradise. Well, when people are immersed online, they're going to mimic the behavior of people who win at those metrics. Attention, views, subscriber count. And so I don't have to elaborate, but I think everyone can understand what the types of things are online that get the most attention. Right? It's often not things that we would find to be moral or wholesome or necessarily family appropriate. And so we go back and we find the example of the Prophet ﷺ saying that if you have no shame, do as you wish. If you have no shame, do as you wish. Right? And the challenge is that we see people that succeed at these metrics. You have people that become, as they say, this is the generation that made the Kardashians famous, right? You have people that became famous not because of their noble contribution to humanity, but because of something inappropriate. And due to that something inappropriate, they now are showered with attention. As a result of that attention, they're rewarded further. They get a TV show, they get a beauty line, they get businesses, they get A-list status. They have millions and millions of fans. Everyone wants to be like them. They're making millions and billions of dollars. And so if you want to be successful, imitate the people that are successful. Right? And so it creates that challenge where when we want to succeed, we start to imitate the behavior that people are doing. And so when we start to engage in that behavior, it starts to have more consequences. Right? It impacts our relationships because now we are kind of out there doing things in public because, hey, that's what I need to do to get popular online. I have to be inflammatory. I have to maybe be inappropriate. I have to maybe be all of these things. And we find the grounding in the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ teaching us that all of my followers are forgiven except those who publicize their sins. See, it's not that people never did bad things, right? Those of us born before 1985, we all know of all the things everyone did. People that we went to school with, everyone was mixed up in all kinds of things. The difference was there was maybe some sense of shame, some sense of guilt, some sense of hiding it. But now it's plastered online for everyone to see. I did this. I'm going to geotag myself at this place I shouldn't be at so everyone can like the photo. Right? And so now instead of perhaps doing something wrong and being regretful, we're doing something wrong and bragging about it. And the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us that one of Allah's names is As-Sittir. As-Sittir is the one that loves to cover the sins of his servant. He is the one that loves to cover the sins of his servant. And he also taught us, he said that someone commits a sin and they go to bed and Allah has covered it for them. But then that person wakes up and they take this covering of Allah and they discard it. And then they announce to the people, here's the thing that I have done. That is the one for whom there's no forgiveness because there's no remorse. There's pride. Right? An-nadmu tawbah, regret is tawbah. You have to have regret and guilt. You have to feel bad about the sin that you have committed to seek Allah's forgiveness. But the one that is posting it and publicizing it has no remorse. They have pride, they're proud of it, and they're sharing it and publicizing it. Now someone might say, well, okay, I'm not going to publicize my sins, but let me send you a screenshot of what someone else did. Did you see what that person posted online? And even that behavior, we're told, whoever conceals the faults of others, Allah will conceal his faults on the day of resurrection. So the Prophet ﷺ, he's taught us that as well, that even though it may be easy, right? Clout chasing, all these things, it might be easy. But we're taught a very serious kind of etiquette here, which is even if you're not the one doing it, don't share it when others are, even if they've put it out in public. Don't be the one that's associating yourself with that and spreading it to others. Now, this idea of publicizing, even beyond that sense of forgiveness, it has impacts on things like marriage. I was the point of contact for a relative that was getting married, and so I was the recipient of dozens and dozens of biodata sheets. And I will share with you that I would immediately get these biodata sheets and Google the young man and look at their social media photos, and I would veto a lot of them. And it would be because they were posting things that made them not very good marriage material. And yet that person is probably going off and saying, it's so hard to get married, and these people they won't give people like me a chance, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have posted a picture of yourself at the club, right? Like, there's some common sense here, but the things that you're posting now are going to follow you, right? And it's not just marriage. I tell people never post about work, period. Good or bad, because you never know how someone's going to take it, right? And the internet is forever. It doesn't matter if it's Snapchat disappearing, all that stuff, vanishing chat, none of that stuff matters. It's on there once, it's there forever. It will be screenshotted, it will come back to bite you. Never, ever post anything, even as a joke that you might think could come back to bite you. But let's talk about marriage for a minute, right? Because it changes the dynamic. How are we now interacting? How are people now looking for spouses? How are they interacting online? All these things become difficult because now the dynamics have changed. They're seeing people online, they're misreading signals, their kind of emotional intelligence, read of body language, all these things are suffering, right? And so I'm not saying that I've got an easy solution, but just understand that this is something that now needs to be accounted for that perhaps we weren't taking into mind before. But now even the wedding is different, right? Weddings used to be very boring. Now weddings are very exciting. Weddings are very exciting for one reason. You get dressed up. All your friends will be there. There will be a nice backdrop. There will be good lighting, and there will be a professional photographer. New profile picture, #squad. Everyone is excited to go to weddings now, right? Because now the purpose of going to the wedding is a little bit different. New profile pic. New photos, right? All of these new content to post online is essentially what it turns into. But even once we're past the wedding, the relationship, now we have to learn how to manage social media within the home, right? I remember getting my haircut, and my barber was telling me, he goes, my wife runs a business, and it's her business, is how we put food on the table, but he goes, it's hard because even when we're watching a movie, messages are coming in, and we don't know how to figure out that balance. What is the balance of keeping your livelihood running off this thing and still making time for family, right? It's difficult. It's a new challenge. And so we have to find ways of working around it. The punchline here, and I'm going to talk about it in a little bit more detail, but at the least, have a conversation about what works best in your home. I can't tell you what a rule of thumb is or a best practice or anything like that because every couple, every family is going to be different. But find something that works for you. And so this technology is entering the home. Right now you started a family, you're raising kids. The technology is going to impact how you communicate, how you express yourselves with one another, how you interact with your kids. All these things change. Right? So one is how parents interact with their kids. How kids interact with their parents. Right? If my mom comes up to me and says, Omar, can you, and I'm just over here like, 1 second, mom. What's up now? Right? It's very disrespectful. I should have some etiquette about how I'm maybe treating my parents when they're talking to me. Right? And so for kids especially, it's kind of like, okay, understand what the boundaries are. I would say, and I know that some of the younger folks are going to not like this, but if you're a little bit younger, your parents should have full access to your phone. They should be able to see everything. They should know your passwords, right? You have to earn that level of trust because here's the thing. As much as you think your parents don't know anything, and maybe they don't, but they do have a little bit of life experience. and they have been around the block, and they know how to spot things that you don't know how to spot. And so it's important to have them involved in what it is that you're doing online and who you're interacting with and all of these types of things. But it's not just the kids, right? I mean, part of it is the kids. We do worry. We do worry about the impact that these phones are having on them and their ability to grow into mature and intelligent adults, and it's a legitimate worry. But we try to involve ourselves. We try to involve ourselves. And so I remember the first time my parents started text messaging me, I was like, this is very weird. I remember I posted a picture of my kids on Snapchat one time, and my sister made a comment about it. She's like, oh, that was a cute picture of so-and-so. My mom goes, what's Snapchat? I was like, nothing. She goes, is it like Facebook? And I'm like, no. She goes, can you put it on my phone? And I was like, nope, we're not doing this, right? But parents want to be involved. They want to communicate with their kids in the same place that their kids are communicating with everyone else, right? They want to be involved. But for the parents, it also works the other way. Right? This thing was invented what? What number are we on? 13? Right? So about 10, 15 years ago. So if you can imagine a kid that was 8 years old 10 years ago, and you've had this thing. Dad. Yeah. Dad. Hold on. Yeah, nice, great, good job. Just ask your mom, whatever, okay. Yeah, good job, looks great. You do this for 10 years, age of 8 to the age of 18. What is the kid going to think? Is that kid going to grow up from the age of 8 to the age of 18 thinking that they are important in the eyes of their parents? Or are they going to grow up thinking, I'm always second or third priority to whoever's on the other end of this thing? And then the kid turns 18, kid turns 19. They don't have a very strong, healthy relationship with their parents. The parents are like, where did we go wrong? There was no fight. There was no big event that caused a falling out, but we're just not close. We don't talk. We don't know what happened. Well, what happened is that for 10 years you sent a message that you're not important as this. Right? And so these things have very real impacts on a family. You know, alhamdulillah, I've done this program over the last 5 years all over the U.S. And I will share with you, and I don't take any pride in mentioning this, but I will share with you the number one complaint that I have gotten after doing this program. And the complaint comes from teenage boys, specifically, and from the sister side. And that one complaint, my husband or my dad works really hard. We appreciate everything he does for the family. We know he's got a lot going on. We know he's very stressed out. But every day, he's just watching WhatsApp videos and forwarding messages, and he's not there. Sitting at the table, physically present, but on WhatsApp all night. It's a very serious problem. Because we can rationalize, well, I'm here, what else do you want? Right? But they're mentally absent. And this is something that we have to deal with, that we have to address. So one thing, if you want an action item for tonight, is that you go home and you have a family meeting. That what does healthy technology use look like in our home? What are our rules for phones? Maybe it's no phones at dinner. Maybe it's everyone brings their device down at 9 p.m. Maybe it's no games or video games until the weekend. Whatever the case may be, everyone's going to be different. But have a meeting and intentionally get on the same page with what our rules are inside our home. And then stick to it, and you can make it fun too. Right? You can find creative ways of communicating with your family. We set up an iMessage account for my youngest, who's still learning how to read, and add him to the family group chat. Now he just sends voice notes on it because he can't read yet. Right? And it's fun. It's a cool little thing that the family can do. So you can incorporate the technology in your home, but be intentional about how you're doing it. Now, one thing the Prophet ﷺ also said, he said, from the excellence of a person's Islam is that they leave that which does not concern them. This is perhaps the biggest challenge of our interactions online. Because it's hard to go online and not immerse yourself in things that don't concern you or post things that don't concern anyone else. Right? Because that's just how the internet kind of goes. And so the more that this circle goes on, the more that we get immersed in this kind of culture of just documenting and posting things, documenting things and posting things, documenting things and posting things. Right? And so now it's very hard to go anywhere and just not have your phone out. And you see how generations treat it differently. You see everyone's got their phone out. You see the old lady at the bottom who's just enjoying it like a normal person. Then you see the middle-aged guy who was born before 1985 who wants to video it, but poor guy can't figure out how. Right? He needs some help. But that's how you see people interacting differently or responding differently to different types of situations. Sometimes we need help. Paul Pierce needs help. Another thing the Prophet ﷺ taught us, he said, do not envy one another. Envy is one of the most destructive diseases of the heart. And remember what I said? I said social media is a magnifying lens. Envy has always existed, but social media can magnify it. Right? It can really put a lot of focus on it. And so see, the thing that happens with social media is that the thing that we're struggling with is the thing that we get exposed to. I got laid off at work. I'm having a tough time with my boss. Things are just not going well. Coworkers giving me a hard time. What happens? I go home, I get on LinkedIn. That idiot got promoted. That idiot's working for that company. And we start to see all the idiots that we know moving up further ahead in their career than us. Struggling to get married, difficulty in marriage. What happens? You go online, all of a sudden, photo at the beach, toes pointed toward the sunset, heart drawn in the sand, everyone's getting engaged, everyone's on their honeymoon, everyone's getting married except me. Right? And so, financial troubles, things are tight, I'm having trouble making the bills, my savings just got cleaned out, I had a medical emergency, all this thing happened, I get online, what happens? Oh, everyone's on exotic vacations. Everyone's eating fancy food, going to fancy restaurants, traveling around the world. Everyone's life is amazing, except mine. Now look, intellectually, yes, we know that not everyone's life is amazing, everyone goes through difficulty, but the thing is that you check this thing 300 times a day and all you get is everyone's highlights, you start to really feel, maybe I am the only one going through the difficulty that I'm going through. Right? Because all anyone posts is the good stuff, they don't post what's actually happening to them in real life. The other thing the Prophet taught us, he said that the most evil of people is the two-faced person, one who shows one face to one group and another face to another. You know, we hear this a lot in khutbahs, right? Don't be Musa at the masjid and Fir'aun at home, right? Like there's that kind of analogy. But online, we can portray any type of image that we want. We can portray an image of someone very righteous or very smart or very, socially active or all of these things. And there's so many studies that prove things like this. Anyone that's managed a website knows that if you have a website, you will see that more people share articles than actually read them. Something will get shared 300 times, but only 200 people visited the website. Something's wrong. Right? And what people have found, what studies have found, is that people sometimes are more interested in being known as someone that cares about something as opposed to actually caring about it. So they're more interested in changing the color of the profile picture to a flag or sharing an article about some cause than they are actually knowledgeable about that cause or interested in that cause. Because they want to portray a certain image of themselves. Can you guys see the picture all right there? Okay. Whoever believes in Allah on the last day should speak good or remain silent. Again, basic teachings, right? Things that we've grown up knowing since we were children. But yet implementing it is really hard. Implementing it is really hard. Because I might resist. I might resist the first time, second time, the third time, but man, the fourth time that person sends this message to the WhatsApp group that annoys me, now I have to respond. right? Now we have to get into it. And we let ourselves get drawn in. Oh, someone on the internet left a comment on Facebook that is wrong. I must save the ummah and refute it, right? I have to do God's work. And so it's hard. And the other thing that's hard is that when you're dealing with something where the name of the game is speed and scale, and there's so much emphasis on being first and going fast, it's very difficult to slow down and to assess what's happening. Now, someone might say, like, okay, this is a lot of bad stuff. What's the good stuff? What's the good stuff, right? This is a quick show of hands. How many people have a smartphone, tablet, laptop, internet at home, data plan, some kind of Netflix, Hulu, Amazon subscription, 1 TV, 2 TVs? All right. I would like to think that we're not all stupid. We wouldn't spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on all of this technology if it didn't serve a purpose, right? Clearly it does. But we have to be aware and intentional of the shortcomings of it, right? But one of the things that is a positive that I do want to highlight. See, growing up, if you watch the Jetsons, right, at least as a kid, I used to wonder, are we ever going to see video phones? Because, like, they would call each other and it would be a video and be like, man, that would be cool to live in an age where they have video phones. Now, if, like, the landline rings, we tell our kids to pick it up as a joke because they don't know how to answer the phone. All they know how to do is FaceTime, right? They only know how to make video calls. They don't know how to talk on the phone, right? But the thing that's done is that it's enabled us to fulfill something that is heavily emphasized in our religion, which is the maintenance of family ties. We no longer have to run to the halal meat store and buy a calling card and run home and punch in 84 digits to get 17 minutes of talk time for $44. Right now we can just FaceTime them, WhatsApp them, do whatever we want, and now we can stay in touch. And so that is something that we should take advantage of and that we should embrace as a positive means of using that technology. Now someone else might say, well, brother, it's all great. I'm just going to stay away from all of this, which is fine. That's your prerogative, but I would say that even if you choose to abstain, most people are not. And so we do need to be aware of what's happening on these platforms and how they're being utilized and the impact that they have. Now, what do we do? What do we do? Right, there's a couple of things that I'll highlight. So one is that we have to have intentionality about how we use these devices. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said that every action is judged by its intention. And so be intentional in your usage. Be intentional about who you're following. Are you following someone that's going to be bombarding your timeline with something that's negative, with something that's unhealthy? Right? Then maybe you need to unfollow. Why are you engaging with a certain person? Why are you posting something? Right? Honestly, 9 times out of 10, if I'm about to post something, I just stop and ask myself, why am I posting this? I just delete it. Because I usually don't have a good reason. Now this doesn't mean, by the way, that, alhamdulillah, now I'm going to go home, I'm only going to post ayat of Quran and hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari. Like, no, that's not what that means. You want to post cat videos, fine, post a cat video, but just be okay with the fact that your intention is entertainment. Right? Be okay with what your intention was as to why you're posting something. And then you're good to go from there. Find ways of being purposeful with your interactions, right? What is the best use of my time at a given moment? If I'm on a work meeting, maybe I shouldn't be on the phone. If we're at dinner, maybe I shouldn't be on the phone. If I'm in line at the grocery store, sure. If I'm driving, please don't. Red light, still probably not a good idea. Sitting in the parking lot, go wild. Right? But be purposeful about what you're doing, when you're doing it, why you're doing it. Find ways of unplugging. Right? And I would say find ways of unplugging at least on a daily basis. Now that might mean for some people that for 30 minutes after I wake up, I don't check my phone. I don't need to read my work emails first thing that I wake up. I don't need to check WhatsApp first thing that I wake up. Right? Maybe I give myself that time. Maybe it's some time before I go to sleep. Maybe it's family meal times. Maybe I just block out an hour in the afternoon where I'm not using, but whatever the case may be, don't let the default just be that this thing is every free moment I'm using it. But find ways to build in moments where you're going to intentionally unplug from the device. Last thing is beyond being purposeful, right? Just make the best use of your time at a given moment. Right? Be intentional. Understand the trade-offs. Right? Because again, without that level of intentionality, it's designed to take up your free time. It's designed to make those trade-offs. It's designed to put things in front of your face that will get the most engagement. These things aren't on accident. There's billions of dollars behind why this acts the way that it does, why it's a red badge and not a purple badge, right? There's a lot of intentionality behind these types of things. So take control of the device and be purposeful with how you use it, right? This doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it or shut down all your accounts or anything like that. Although I would say, I say that because most people aren't going to, and most people need a healthier way of managing it. But I will say that if I'm being truly honest in the research that I've done, the conclusion really is to just get off of everything as much as you can. It really is to get off of social media. It really is to minimize your usage of these types of devices. Because it's a slippery slope. As soon as a little bit in, it ropes you back in. But there are healthy ways of managing, right? There are things like maybe you delete social media apps off your phone. Only check them when you're at your laptop. Maybe you turn off notifications. Maybe you don't need email notifications, turn those off. Maybe you don't need to be subscribed to like 48 WhatsApp groups. Maybe you only need 1 or 2, right? But find ways of really minimizing the things that are on here that are going to beckon and call you, right? So when I check, so I should be checking it because I have a reason that I want to go and check it and look at it, not because I'm doing something else like praying or reading a book and this thing keeps buzzing in my pocket and I have to go see what's there. Right? So a level of intentionality, a level of purpose behind it helps to rein that in. Lastly, very quickly, we do have the book outside if anyone is interested. And the only favor that I ask if you enjoyed it, I do write more articles and things like that about topics like this. You can subscribe to the email list from the website there and also get other articles, especially on this topic of social media and a few other things. So you can visit that and sign up, inshallah. Jazakallahu khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us.
All right, Jazakallah khair, Brother Omar, for that beneficial and eye-opening talk that's going to help us be safer on social media as we enter a ever more digital age. So just a quick reminder, tomorrow, 11:30, there is the mother-daughter program. And then the career program starts tomorrow at 4:30. And then after Isha, we're going to have food. And like Brother Omar said, if you guys want a more in-depth analysis of everything he said today, his book is on sale at the back for $15. Jazakallah.
No, come on. What? I'm confused.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح
لا حول ولا قوة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر.
لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله سيدنا رسول الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله سيدنا رسول الله. استقيموا واستووا اخشعوا في صلاتكم صلوا صلاة ودع. الله أكبر. سبحانك اللهم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور، له الأسماء الحسنى، يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض، وهو العزيز الحكيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر، كلا سوف تعلمون، ثم كلا سوف تعلمون، كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم، ثم لترونها عين اليقين، ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حميده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of everybody, I'd like to say Jazakallah khair, Brother Rahman. Thanks so much for honoring us tonight. Alhamdulillah. The lecture was very, very beneficial. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts. Allahumma ameen ya rabbal alameen.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I don't want to get any opportunity gone to make announcements. Tomorrow we have Sheikh Salah's program, the pre-Ramadan series, Ramadan preparation series. Every Saturday in March, please attend that after Aisha, starting from tomorrow. There is a career workshop also tomorrow that Brother Nasir is conducting. You can get information on the website, inshallah. And iftar sign-up slots are open now. You can go on the website or you can go on the Mohit terminals and you can contribute towards the iftar. There are going to be 4 community iftars, inshallah, this Ramadan. So please contribute towards them. And like I have previously announced, the exciting news is expansion is restarting. We have released the money to the general contractor. Inshallah, you will see the machinery rolling here within the next 10 to 11 days. So that's, alhamdulillah, finally, we'll see that happening. Jazakallah khair. Do people really need food? Food? Yeah, go, attack. Food.
Assalamu alaikum. There is a book signing happening outside by the speaker, Omar Usman, his book on social media. So he's signing his book. It's for $15. So if you go outside, please check out the book. And if you buy it, get his signature as well. Jazakallah.